Alright, I'm going to show you how to mat a picture. For this example, I'm going to use an old etching I had made back in 2001. This is a multi-plate etching. So first thing you got to do is determine the size of the opening in the mat, meaning what size you want your window to be. So what I like to do is either use a 1/4 to 3/8 inch on each side, but for this example, just to make the math easier, I'm going to use a 1/2 inch. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a 1/2 inch on each side, which means I'm going to have 6. That way it'll give me a nice 1/2 inch space there. Take my little piece of paper and draw out my picture. All right. So my window is going to be so far 6 on a side. Then we go again, another 1/2 inch at the top. And then here's you got to decide how far down you're going to go, because you have to take into consideration your signature. So I'm going to leave it at an even 9. So our opening is going to be 6 by 9. Now you have to determine what size mat you want to use. Do you want to go 2 inches? Do you want to go 3 inches, 2.5 on each side? Also, I typically will do a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch larger on the bottom. That's called basing it. When you have a picture that's hanging on the wall, and if it's even on all sides, it can create an optical illusion and look like it's floating. So by basing it, you add a little bit more on the bottom and it weights it down so it doesn't look like it floats around, draws more attention to the image, and makes it a lot soothing or aesthetically pleasing overall. I'm going to use a I'm going to use a frame that I have already. This is an 11 by 14, which means the max size on the outside is going to be 11 by 14. So we got to determine what size mat I'm going to have on each size to fit an 11 by 14 mat. So my size is 14 tall, 11 here. All right, so my window is 6 by 9. To fit an 11 by 14, we do the math. If you were going to custom frame, you would just do an even on all 3 sides, base it, and then determine the size of your frame afterwards. But because I'm using a standard frame from the store and not a custom frame, I have to determine what size it's going to be and make it nice, as even as possible. So our math is simple. You're going to do the sides. Let's put this here. The sides are 14, so you're going to subtract 9, which leaves you with 5 inches. All right. So 5 inches, if you were to make it even, divided by 2 would be 2.5. But I'm going to base it, as I said. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a little bit more on the top. On the bottom. We're going to make it 2.25 by 2.75. That leaves me with more on the bottom than it does on the top. Now the sides are 6 and you got 11, so 11 minus 6, you're going to be left with 5 again. So here we'll do 2.5 on the side, 2.5 on the side. Now that's close enough to being even on all 3 sides, so that you're not going to be too much. Because if it was 3 inches on each side, it wouldn't look right. Inside the frame, it would look like it's just it's too fat on the sides. But these are close enough so that optically, I think it'll be aesthetically pleasing in the end. So that's what we're doing: 2.5 on each side, 2.25, and that will leave us a nice 6 by 9 window to fit this piece. Now you got to take your mat board. Draw all your dimensions on the back side. This is the printed side with a thing on it. A lot of times I'll put an X on it if it doesn't have that. So that will tell me that this is where I'm going to put all my dimensions. Now this is the bad side, so I want to make sure that I want to cut this corner off because it's a little bent. So I need to make an 11 by 14, which is, everyone knows how to do that. We're going to go 14 up. Draw my 14. And then we're going to go 11. So we're going to get rid of this. So we're going to go 11 to the side. Go a sliver shorter than 11 and 14, just so it fits in the frame. Because that frame, if it's done by machines, it could be exactly 11 by 14. And you don't have to trim again afterwards. So just a sliver shy, literally like a millimeter would do it. So this is my outside dimensions. That's what I'm looking for. Now we're going to cut those out. I just use a regular X-Acto knife, and I'm going to cut the short side. I'm going to cut on my cardboard. Go to the inside. Like I was saying, that's that sliver shy. Cut one off. Again to the inside. Alright, so there's my 11 by 14. And now, we're going to make our window. See, that's going to look nice, and I think it'll look nice and even at the end. So, now we're going to cut our window. Again, you can set... Frames have dimensions and guides and stuff. I like to do everything by hand, just so I know the dimensions are correct. Go back to our little map here, and determine that we're going to go 2.5, 2.5. So just measure out 2.5 on the side. Draw your lines. You can line up just the little dots, but draw your lines. I'll show you why. That's going to be important here in just a minute. There's my sides. Now we're going 2 1/4 and 2 7/5. 2 3/4. So 2 1/4. And then we're going to go 2 3/4. Again, that's the base it, meaning to make it look visually heavier on the bottom. And then even when I do this, oftentimes, after I draw a little arrow, just so a little up arrow that tells me that this is the bottom, because sometimes when they're really close in dimensions, you can't see the difference. So there you go, that's my window. Now the important part is cutting your mat. When you cut your mat, these dimensions are all set, so there's a little marker on your cutter here, and that's where you're going to line it up. First, you're going to lift up your mat. This is a 45-degree bevel, and it cuts this way. When you cut your mat, make sure you have a nice sharp blade. I cut a whole bunch of them recently, and the blade was nicked at the bottom, so it was a little chip, and it was leaving a burr. You want to have it nice and smooth, so a nice clean blade is all you need. This is a Logan 300 series mat cutter. That's what I'm using. So you take this bar, line up on your inside dimension. Because this is cutting visually at a 45, so visually you want to see that bevel from the other side. So you line it up here just to the inside of the line. Hold that down with your hands, push straight in, and then come up here. I like to hold my finger right here and catch it as it comes by so it doesn't slip. And you go right to the inside of the line. Again, inside of the line. Move over here. Then we're gonna go and same thing, just to the inside of that pencil line. Come up here, catch it. Oop, that thing's sticking up a little bit there. So, all right. Inside of the line. Lined it up. And there's cut. All right. So now my window's all cut. To move that out of the way, and I use a piece of very fine sandpaper, some like I don't know what it is, like 300-400 grit, and I look at the inside edges here to make sure that there's no burrs, because that can happen enough. That's what I was talking about earlier. When the blade's not sharp, you might get a little bit of a burr, and this just gently like erases that little bit of a burr on the corners. There you go. There's my up arrow. Now we're gonna put my picture on. A lot of times I would use linen tape and hinge mat it, but I have some acid-free tape here that I'm just going to use, two-sided tape. It makes it a lot easier, faster to work with, and you know, it's not going to hurt the picture at all. There's plenty of extra paper left on the picture so that you don't have to worry about that. And then you're going to line up your side. Oh, look, still got a burr on there. Hold on. There we go. So you're going to line it up so you get your picture right about ½ inch even on each side like we talked about. Push that down. And there you go. That's that. So now, again, my frame is just a frame from one of the local pop stores there. Take that out of there. Take out the matching with it. Don't need that. Put my picture inside. Nice and fit. Use this cardboard hacker piece. Slap that down. And there you go. That picture is done. All right. I hope that helped out everybody. And, you have any questions, just shoot me a message and I'll try to answer all I can.